All right, hi folks. I'm recording a video for Section 6.2, and Section 6.2 is working with trig functions on the unit circle. So let's go to an example here. This is problem number 5, and it says find the exact value of this expression sine 60 plus cosine 45 degrees. And notice it says do not use a calculator. And it also says find an exact value. What that means is MyMathLab is not asking for a decimal approximation. It's asking for an exact value. That might mean that your answer might include square roots. For example, if my answer, just to show what they mean, if my answer happened to include a square root of 2, I would leave the answer like that. I would not use the decimal approximation of 1.414. If you were to work out the square root of 2 on your calculator, you would get the answer 1.414, but this is an approximation because this decimal continues on, so we don't want that. We want to leave an answer using square roots if needed to get an exact value. All right, well, what I could do here is use what's called the unit circle. And if I go to our textbook, there's a little bit of assistance here. Let me go to our textbook, and I'm going to come here to page 383. And you might notice on this page, it's giving me a table with values of the sine, cosine, tangent, and so on for these angles, and they're giving me the angles in both degrees and radians. So 30 degrees is the same as pi over 6 radians. And then these values are giving me the value for the sine, cosine, tangent. For example, from this table, I could see that the sine of 30 degrees is equal to 1/2. I could see the sine of 60 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. All right, so I can use this lookup table to help me figure out sine, cosine, tangent for these angles 30, 45, and 60. So let's use this table because this is convenient. All right, so here's what they're giving us. Sine 60 plus cosine 45. All right, let me go look up sine 60. Well, this is the row for 60 degrees, and I want the sine. So I'm seeing that's going to be square root of 3 over 2. So sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. All right, let me go to cosine 45 degrees. So now I want cosine 45 degrees. Let me go to the table. This row is 45 degrees, and this column is the cosine. So it looks like the cosine is square root of 2 over 2. Now, the only other thing I'll do here is simplify this because I have the same denominator. So let me go ahead and add the fractions. I'm going to keep the same denominator of 2 and add the numerator. So this is going to be the square root of 3 plus the square root of 2 all over 2. Okay, and remember, we want to leave our answer as square roots here. Don't work this out on your calculator to get a decimal answer because that's not what MyMathLab wants. Notice it says type an exact answer using radicals as needed. All right, so I'm going to type this in. I'm going to use a fraction here, and I'm going to put the square root of 3 plus the square root of 2 on top and all over 2 on the bottom of the fraction. So this should be the answer that we're looking for here. All right, let's do another example like this. Go to the next problem. All right, this one says sine 60 times cosine 60. All right, so let me go to my table here for a little help. So 60 degrees is the bottom row in this table. So here's the row for 60. The sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. The cosine of 60 is 1/2. So I'm going to multiply these together. That'll be the square root of 3 over 2. The cosine of 60 is 1/2. Now, when you multiply fractions, you remember you just multiply across top and bottom. So this is going to be the square root of 3 over 4 for this answer. Okay, and again, my math lab is telling me leave your answer as an exact answer using radicals. Of course, radicals implies using square roots, so I'm going to make this the square root of 3 over, square root of 3 over 2. Whoops. Let me go back. I'm going to first enter the fraction symbol. I think that's easier. And then I'll put the square root of 3 on top and the number 4 on the bottom. Okay. All right. How about if we look at another one? This one involves cosine and tangent. And also in this example, they're giving us the angles in radians. So let's take a look here. So I'm noticing they're giving us the angle here is pi over 6. All right, so we're going to need the cosine of pi over 6 and the tangent of pi over 6. So let's go to this table for a little help. And the first row corresponds to the angle for pi over 6. Pi over 6 is the same as 30 degrees. And it looks like first we need the cosine, which is square root of 3 over 2. There's an 8 in front, so I'm going to write this as 8 times the square root of 3 over 2. All right, let me go to the next part. We want 3 times the tangent of pi over 6. But let me go check out tangent of pi over 6. It looks like the tangent is here, which is square root of 3 over 3. All right, now I can just simplify some of these fractions. In the first fraction, I have 8 over 2. That's just a 4, so 4 square root of 3. And here I have a 3 over 3, but those cancel out, so I have the square root of 3. I can actually go one more step to simplify, because these are, in essence, like terms. So this is 4 times the square root of 3 plus 1 times the square root of 3. If I add those together, I'm getting 5 square root of 3. Let me rewrite that. So this looks like it's going to be 5 times the square root of 3. Okay, and of course, I'm not going to work out the square root of 3 on my calculator. I'm going to leave it as is because my math lab says type in an exact answer. So it looks like we end up here with 5 times the square root of 3 as the answer for this one. All right, folks, hope this is helpful to get started here in the 6-2 homework.